Well, good evening, folks, and welcome back to the farm. Got my little helper here with me tonight. She's just measuring up a patch that we're putting in a fence here. Sheep are pretty crafty things, and if they find a hole in a fence, good luck of ever fixing that fence. And because they got a great memory, right? They got a great memory for weak spots. And so when we put them actually in this paddock down here, we re-fenced the west and the north fence. And I knew, because right here, I'm right where the creek bed crosses through, I knew there was a weak spot in the fence, and I knew it was only a matter of time before they found it. I just didn't know how long it would take. And so past few days, we've noticed, we looked out from the house and the sheep have been on the wrong side of the fence. So I came down here tonight and I noticed, well, as you can see, my hillbilly patch, this is where the big hole was, where the creek actually flows through here. And so I put a couple of 2x6 rails on there and jammed a half a pallet on just for good luck. You know, it's hilarious because they were all just a second ago just congregated right over there where that hole was. So they were looking pretty hard. Sad news, ladies. No more emergency exit. You gotta use the stairs like everybody else. So I'm sure I don't have to tell you guys exactly how much fun chasing escaped sheep around the yard is. But I just came back up to the house. Thankfully, I don't have to chase escaped sheep. They're the rams, they're exactly where they need to be. But I'm looking at this electric netting here, and one of the poles is actually completely down, and it looks like it actually might have broken right down here, which is extraordinary, I guess. I don't know what else to think about that. So I'm gonna shut this off because I already got myself a little bit of a licking off of this that wasn't greatly appreciated. I'm gonna see if I can try and convince this thing to go back together. So I did manage actually to get it back together, and it looks like it actually broke off right down in the bottom here, but a little bit of a tweak and a little bit of a tap, it's back in the ground pretty solid. So we're gonna get a switch turned back on and keep everybody where they're supposed to be for the remainder of the evening. So I'm not much of a gambling man. In fact, I'm not at all. But if I were to have to lay odds on it, I would say there's our perpetrator right there. Miko, the old blind dog, probably walked directly into that electric fence, got real spicy, and then just got himself untangled any way he knew how. And if that meant forcibly, that meant forcibly. But anyways, fence is all together. Sheep are grazing, doing what they need to do. And everybody's triple happy teddy bears tonight. So I know there's lots of folks like us that are struggling this year. I gotta admit, I've never seen a year like this. In 21 years I've been up in the Peace Country here, I've never seen it where there's been this little grass and this little, crops have been so poor, grazing's been so poor. And so you're looking at your entire summer having no feed for your animals, and coming into fall and winter and spring and having literally nothing in reserve. And how do you manage that? So we've practiced a bit of nook and cranny farming here, as you can see. I mean, we did this with the chickens initially and then just turned the sheep loose in here. And we're taking advantage of otherwise non-viable spaces, basically, with this electric netting. So this electric netting, each length of it is 164 feet. And so we got 2 lengths of that stuff. We got some other yellow stuff, poultry netting. It's crap, to be honest, but this stuff's held up good. We got this last year from PV Mart. It was like $230 per roll, so it's pricey. But I mean, if you can take advantage of a large area like this and graze your sheep, if you've only got a handful of them for the course of summer, I mean, that could save you a pile of money right there. Absolutely it can. Now, coming into winter, if you're like us and there just is no hay, right? We did have to go pretty far afield to find some hay, but that's notwithstanding the fact that we're also going to have to explore some alternative feed sources. So if you got sheep like us, there's absolutely nothing wrong with chucking them on a straw bale, right? So we do have some straw bales here. Now what the sheep needs is it needs roughage, fiber, protein, right? Carbohydrates. So this is going to provide your roughage, your fiber essentially. Where do you get protein? So, I mean, we supplement molasses already during late gestation periods. So we're just going to bring that in early. And you can soak a round bale like this, a straw with molasses, and the sheep will happily eat it. And they'll do quite well on it, actually. With late gestation, you're probably going to want to make sure you have some really good feed for them. Otherwise, they get things like twin lamb disease, and it can be really hard on the ewes, can be really hard on the lambs, higher mortality rates. And it can become kind of a free-for-all for parasites as well. So not only is you're damaging your animal for that season, but extensively over into the summer, you could be dealing with parasite load in your fields, and you're depositing that, and it can become a multi-year problem. Having to treat and all that, it can be a nightmare, right? And so that's why we're doing what's called a maintenance year. And so we're going to keep the rams in good condition because they are bread and butter, absolutely. The health of the flock, the breeding flock, is entirely determined by the health of the breeding sires. And on the downstream side of that, making sure that your A-team, your ewes, you're only keeping and feeding and giving perfectly good high quality feed to the best ewes. So anybody that's on the B team, sorry girls, you're not going to make it through this year. You're just not, right? And that's not to say they're going down the road. They're just, maybe they're going to find another producer that's looking for that type of animal, or some they'll end up being call ewes. And there's going to be a couple right now. We've got the Sausage Sisters. We've got Sharon and Juliet. Sorry to say, I know for the fans of Juliet out there, and Juliet is going to make some amazing breakfast sausage here in about 2 weeks. So while that might seem a little bit cold-hearted, that's the necessary step you got to take. I mean, that's survival at this point. We're talking massive drought year. We've received like maybe 1.5 inches of rain all summer long. Like, that's shocking. It's absolutely shocking. Now the winter previous to that, we barely got any snow. It was very rarely cold. So in the spring, we didn't even get any, spring melt and soak into the soil. So there was just no base there for it. Then followed immediately by a drought. It's just absolutely, it's an agricultural disaster is what it actually is, right? And so you do have to make some tough, unfortunate, and in some cases, cold-hearted decisions. So if you find yourself in that kind of a predicament where, I got to make a tough choice, but I got old Bessie the sheep, and I just can't let her go, and can't put her in a frying pan. What are some other options you can explore? Well, we just talked a little bit about straw as one unconventional option. Keep in mind though that, straw may not be available either. Wheat, barley, canola, peas, all these crops they're all dependent on moisture too. So unless you're getting second year straw, there's a very good chance that in this year you won't find a whole lot of that stuff out there. And it may not be worth the farmer's diesel bill to go ahead and bale that stuff. So if you do find some, it might be pretty pricey for the feed value that you're actually getting. Now, hey, I've seen, the other day I saw like the record. I thought $175 a round bale was the record. No, people just never fail to disappoint with, let's call it greed. But maybe it's not greed. Maybe that's just the price of what things are right now. $375 a bale for a round bale I saw today. Shocking, absolutely shocking. So how can you afford to stay afloat, right? It's a rich man's game, I guess. So what's plan C? Ta-da! Yes, believe it or not, sheep do quite well foraging on deciduous or even evergreen trees, actually. So if you do have a wooded area on your property and you're really struggling to find feed sources, this might be an option for you. Keep in mind though that if you're going to put them in a forested section, this does, open up the gate to a little bit more risk from predators. So, but this is a viable option, and they will do very, very well on things like poplar, alder, Saskatoon bushes, raspberry bushes. They just love it, absolutely love it. Pine trees, spruce trees, they'll eat the buds off them. They'll have a great time and do very, very well. Now, the one thing you have to consider is this is a very short-term like this is emergency, right? Short-term panic button kind of thing to keep your animals fed, because once they eat all this stuff, it's not coming back. Like if they got this much grass, right? You can eat this much grass and that's going to grow back in probably 4 to 6 weeks. If they eat that much of a tree branch, that's going to grow back in 3 to 5 years, right? So this is basically panic mode to get you through a short period of time until you can find some alternative feed sources, some more sustainable feed options, but may just be what gets you through this season. So I think before I have to go hit the panic button myself, I better run inside and fix up a cup of tea. So I'll let you go for now. I hope you have a fantastic evening, and we'll see you tomorrow.